Hello, my name's Nicola Millard. I used to be BT's futurologist, but everyone used to ask me the same question, which is, do you have a crystal ball? Actually, I do. It doesn't work. So I think reading tea leaves or looking at crystal balls all day would be a very boring job. I have a slightly more boring job title now. I'm a Principal Innovation Partner with BT's innovation team. And my job's really fantastic because it's trying to understand how we as people are really key to disruption and innovation. So I'm a psychologist by background. I am surrounded by many technologists in BT, but technology on its own is not a big disruptor because, frankly, we have to be able to adopt it and change the ways that we work, rest and play in order for it to be remotely effective. So that's why there is a psychologist working in an innovation team. And my work really is around the future of work at the moment, which is a very hot topic, given that the future of work sort of arrived at the beginning of the pandemic. And again, we had this perfect convergence of a pandemic and lots of technologies that enabled us to work in very different ways that had been around, frankly, for a while. We hadn't necessarily adopted them. So everything from the cloud through to video conferencing technologies, through to the connectivity that many of us have through broadband, through Wi-Fi, through 4G, eventually through 5G. So there's a lot of exciting things we can do in order to reshape the future world of work. But there are a number of questions that have been thrown up by the pandemic. They're interesting because what are we going to emerge with as we come out of this, as we control the virus? What's sustainable? So, one obvious one is the future of work all about working from home? Well, home working has been very effective, actually, during the pandemic. Largely, a lot of people have discovered that they can work perfectly well from home. But actually, this is a bit weird at the time we're having at the moment, because normally you're given a choice around home working, and we haven't. So it's not home working as normal. And I think a lot of people have struggled if they don't have an appropriate space in their house, or maybe they've got children running around all the time, distracting them, or maybe they just like being around people. Extroverts have struggled a lot more than introverts. So actually, the key to the future of work isn't about working from home. It's about offering choices when we can open those choices up. One of those choices is, of course, the office. And I often get asked, are we ever going to go back to offices? Well, yes, because I think offices emerged even before the pandemic as places that were transforming from places I go to work to places where I go to socialise about work. So you meet people, actually collaborate with people, create community. And I think offices have a really strong role in building all of those things. But that's got a big impact on how you design offices, because if you want people to collaborate, probably having lots of lines of desks where people go to do quiet work is not the place that you need to design. So we're seeing some quite exciting office designs. Just prior to the pandemic, there were some really radical designs out there in terms of office spaces that were really exciting. So we're not necessarily going to work from home all the time. We're not necessarily going to be commuting maybe 2 hours into an office either. There could well be a third space. I call it the coffice. And to be honest, that's just a space that maybe I can walk to or cycle to. And certainly because we have a climate crisis looming, we probably do need to rethink things like a commute and say, well, can we work? If we want to get out of the house, can we work in slightly different spaces? And those spaces at the moment can be anything from a church to a pub to a coffee shop to a hotel lobby to a much more formalised office space. So we are social creatures. I think we will always be social creatures, and that we're missing social contact at the moment. So it isn't all about home working. I think the second question I get asked an awful lot about the future of work is whether we're going to be automated out and taken over by AI and robotics. And the answer to that one is probably not. Artificial intelligence was supposed to be the big disruptor. In actual fact, the big disruptor proved to be slightly smaller and a lot more viral. But if we look at what AI is good at, it's very good at things where there's a lot of process and a lot of rules and a lot of data. Human beings, and find that a bit boring, to be perfectly honest. We're really good when there's anarchy and chaos and complexity and things that require things like empathy and caring, uniquely human things that machines are not very good at doing. So it isn't about the fact that we're going to replace lots of human beings with robots and AI. Yes, we will do some of that, but in actual fact, it's probably what is often classed as the dull, the dirty, and the dangerous stuff. In other words, the stuff we don't really want to do. We're left with the complex stuff. Now, that means, although that's great, that means we often are very difficult to measure, that we need to really think about how we're most productive during a day. We don't want to burn out, we don't want to be tired, but we are left with some uniquely human things that we're doing. The best example actually has been around some of the studies around medical things. So if we look at things like mammograms, for example, in the UK, typically we need 2 radiographers to read 1 mammogram. And 2 radiographers are pretty accurate when they read those mammograms. When they used AI on its own to read those mammograms, it was fairly accurate, but actually it wasn't as accurate as 2 human beings. However, when we put 1 radiographer alongside the AI, it was really incredible, the results that they actually achieved. Does that mean you make half of those radiographers redundant? No, because radiographers are very busy people. It actually frees them up to do other things. So I always say that, the last thing we want our employees to be in the future world of work is robots. So how do we exploit those uniquely human things? That's the future world of work.